Welcome to Inside the Podcast, where clinical behavior health meets scriptural authority. I'm your host, Jeffrey L. Johnson, and this is your Counselor's Corner. Have you ever promised yourself with total sincerity that you are going to respond with patience, only to catch yourself reacting in an irritation minutes later? Have you ever known with absolute clarity the right path to walk, yet found yourself pulled backward into an old unwanted habit? If you've ever felt that internal tug-of-war, you are not alone, and you are not the lost cause. In Romans chapter 7, the Apostle Paul captured that exact human frustration when he wrote, "For what I am doing, I do not understand, for what I will do, or I will to do, that I do not practice. But wait, I hate that I do." Today we are taking Paul's internal war into the counseling room. We are going to look at the story of the man named Michael, and we'll examine how three clinical frameworks, motivational interviewing, narrative therapy, and logotherapy, illuminate the battle between habit and universal legacy. Lean in, grab your notebook, and let's enter the counselor corner. Let me tell you about Michael. Michael is 42 years old. He is a hard-working manager, a devoted husband, and a father to two teenage boys. If you sat down with Michael over a cup of coffee and asked him what matters most to him in this world, without hesitation, he would tell you, "My family." He wants to be a good provider, a spiritual anchor, and leave a lasting legacy of stability and love for his sons. But Michael has a shadow. When the pressure at work builds up and the noise at home gets loud, something snaps inside him. A minor comment from his wife or a messy living room from his boys sets off a sudden explosive wave of irritation. He raises his voice, shuts down the room with harsh words, and then, feeling the immediate crushing weight of guilt, he walks out to the garage, shuts the door, and sits in the dark. Sitting on the bench in the cold garage, Michael asks himself the exact same question every single time. Why did I do that again? I promised myself last week I wouldn't lose my temper, and I love these people. Why can't I stop? If we look at Michael's story, feels uncomfortably familiar, I want you to hear this clearly. Michael isn't a bad man trying to become good. He's a human being caught in the crosshairs of ambivalence, automatic habit loops, and internal war. When Michael sits alone in the garage, he is living out Romans 17. He's doing the very thing he hates. So how do we help Michael move out of that garage and into a genuine, lasting transformation? We bring three powerful clinical tools into the room. First, let's look at motivational interviewing, or MI. In motivational interviewing, we don't meet Michael with judgment or lecture. We meet him with curious evocation question to help him navigate his ambivalence. You see, Michael doesn't want to yell at his family, but in a split second before he explodes, that anger gives him a false sense of control over an overwhelming situation. Instead of asking Michael, "Why can't you get it together?" which only feeds his shame, we ask, "Michael, on the scale of 1 to 10, how well does retreating to the garage serve the father you actually want to be? What is that anger costing you at the kitchen table?" MI helps Michael recognize the gap between his daily reaction and his core values, building his internal readiness to choose a new path. Second, we bring narrative therapy. One of the foundational principles of narrative therapy is this: the person is not the problem is the problem. Notice what Paul does in Romans 7:17 when he writes, "But now it is no longer I who do it, but it's the sin that dwells in me." Paul does something clinically brilliant here. He externalizes the struggle. In counseling, we help Michael separate his core identity from his behavior. Michael is an angry man. Michael is a father who deeply values peace, but in an inherited automatic habit loop of emotional reactivity is trying to hijack his household. When Michael stops wearing anger as his identity, he stops saying that's just how I am, and starts treating it as an external obstacle which he can overcome. Third, we anchor this in logos therapy, or a logotherapy developed by Viktor Frankl. Logotherapy centers on the will to meaning. Why is Michael so miserable sitting on that workbench in the garage? Because his actions violated the deepest purpose. That pain he feels isn't proof he's a failure. It's a proof that the conscience is alive. His pain proves that he cares about his family. Through logotherapy, we help Michael reframe his struggle. Michael, this frustration isn't the end of your story. God is using this crucible to refine your character, so you can teach your sons what real humility, repentance, and self-control look like. And this is the Universal Legacy Model Commentary, and I call it the Circuit Breaker. In the architecture of Universal Legacy Model, we must understand that no human choice occurs in a vacuum. The eternal tug-of-war we experience in our daily choices is rarely just about the immediate moment. It is often the echo of inherited fractures, family scripts, and multi-generational patterns. When Michael sits in that garage, he stands at a critical junction in his covenant history. He can either allow the inherited pattern of emotional explosion and withdrawal to flow through him onto his sons, or he can choose to become a circuit breaker. The Universal Resilience Model gives us the micro-clinical tools, using motivational interviewing to face our ambivalence, narrative therapy to detach from the toxic shame, and logotherapy to anchor in the ultimate purpose. But it is the Universal Legacy Model that gives those micro steps the eternal weight. When you do the hard, quiet work of self-examination, when you apologize to your spouse, when you choose patience over outbursts, when you align your daily habits with your deepest values, you are doing far more than managing stress. You are altering the emotional and spiritual capital of your family line. You are ensuring that what started as a fracture in your past becomes a monument of resilience for those who follow in your footsteps. Your daily struggle is not in vain. Every time you rewrite your story today, you reshape your legacy for generations to come. And this brings us to the bigger picture, what we call the Universal Legacy Model. While your daily choices represent the micro-level work of resilience, the Universal Legacy Model provides the macro-generational view. As Michael sat in the cold garage, we asked him to look back at his own childhood, and Michael realized something profound. His father handled stress the exact same way. with sudden explosive outbursts followed by days of quiet withdrawal. Michael had unknowingly inherited a family fracture. He was running an old inherited script. Under the university legacy model, every daily choice you make ripples across time. When Michael decides to take a deep breath, open that garage door, and walk back into the kitchen, and say to his wife and his sons, "I was wrong to raise my voice. Will you forgive me?" He isn't just fixing a Tuesday night dinner. Michael is acting as a circuit breaker for his family line. He is interrupting a multi-generational cycle and writing a new covenant story in their family's history, ensuring his sons inherit emotional strength rather than emotional reactivity. My friend, in your life, you are sitting in the garage, like Michael, asking why you keep falling into the same trap. Remember this today. Feeling the tension between where you are and where you want to be isn't proof that you're failing. It's proof that your conscience is alive. Your values matter and your story is far from over. May you have the grace to forgive your past failures, the wisdom to separate your identity from your temporary struggles, and the courage to align your daily choices with your ultimate purpose. May the peace of God guard your heart, guide your home, and anchor your legacy. Now I want to invite you to join us in continuing this conversation. Head over to our official Facebook page inside the podcast or Counselor's Corner and find today's broadcast post. We want to hear from you. Leave a comment and answer in this week's discussion question. What is one pattern or habit you are actively choosing to write so your family inherits strength instead of struggle? Engage our growing community. Share the episode with someone who needs encouragement today. And let us know how this message spoke to your heart. Until the next time, keep reflecting, keep growing, and walk with intentional purpose. God bless you.